All righty, everybody. This is Jed Wonderly, host of the Utah Sports Report, and we are back for more football goodness with our good friend and good, awesome Ute, longtime Ute, and hopefully someday coach up on the hill, Ken Scott, aka Batman. Ken, once again, I appreciate you coming on and sharing your knowledge with us and giving us your thoughts so that we can possibly have some realistic expectations for the season, because I think there's a lot of optimism out there. And we need to know whether we should temper that optimism or whether we should just go all in.
You know what? I don't know about you, but it's better just to go all in, man. Let's just take the risk. Let's go all in and let's be the trailblazers of anybody who has a thought about what this upcoming season may be.
Okay, well, in the offensive video, now you guys watching this, if you haven't seen the offensive video, I'm going to link to that in the description down below. But in the offensive breakdown, I asked Ken a question right at the start. I said, is this the best chance a Utah team has had to make the CFP? And I told him I don't want to hear the answer yet. So maybe I should have had him answer it at the end of the offensive video, but so, you guys are going to get it now, not right now, right this minute, but at the end of this video, Ken is going to reveal it. And I think based on what he just said, he did reveal it, but we'll make sure that's official by the end of this video. But for now, we're going to go to some highlights, let you guys enjoy a couple of quick highlights, and we'll be back right after this.
And they'll run it, Jordan. Jordan. See you later. Touchdown, Utah.
4 seconds, 3 seconds. Back to Van Dyke. Deep 3 up. And good! It's good!
They just need this to finish their best beam rotation of the year. And look at Ford. Says, get on your feet.
All righty. We are back with Ken Scott. And Ken gave us some awesome thoughts and ideas as to what he thinks about our beloved Utes on the offensive side of the ball for the upcoming 2022 season. And now, with all the youth we have on defense as well, I think we're a little younger on defense than we are on offense, although we're kind of young on offense. I want to see what if Ken thinks our defense is going to be good enough, because last year, Ken, and give me your thoughts on this. Last year is like the first year where I thought, man, if only our defense was as good as it normally is, because usually our defense kind of keeps us in the game and hopefully our offense does enough to win.
Right.
But last year it was like,
seemed
our
like
offense was having to go toe to toe.
Yeah.
Like with Ohio State and, maybe a few others, but, and our defense, you could see it improve throughout the year, but it just seemed like our offense was the better half last year.
Looking at it, I mean, it does look like it that way, especially over the course of a couple of games. You mentioned Ohio State. You mentioned, we even talked about Oregon State. I don't know if it was on the last show or was just within the breaks, and we had to go toe to toe, literally scoring. And so it did look at some points where our offense did take the reins and the defense kind of had to play catch up a little bit. And that may be due to various reasons, such as, injuries playing a big part, us having to shuffle a couple of players around due to it. But, it did seem as if it was the first time in a little while that offense, sort of took the reins and was carrying us a little bit.
So that being said, there was still some players that kind of stuck out to me.
For sure.
And, I look at a guy like, he's a local guy out of, Corner Canyon High School, Van Fillinger. He's a COVID freshman is what I'm going to call him last year.
Yep.
And, he's already, he's not the kind of kid that needs to put on any more weight. He looks like he's at his ideal weight all of last year.
Right.
And it looked like the game started to slow down for him a little bit, and that he was really starting to make some good plays.
That's
Van
true.
Fillinger.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. You know, one thing with our defensive ends, man, one thing I love is like the coaches part of it. And even though he was young, you know, he had to take some time to settle in, just like any young player does. You know, he always just kept on going and kept on going, made some plays. And if he did have some, you know, young guy hiccups, you know, he was able to overcome that with the, you know, rest of the group that we did have to help him, you know, get back and reset. So the dude, you know, is phenomenal. He got the size, got everything, you know, the length and things of that nature to get the job done. And so his future's bright, obviously, because, you know, when it comes to our defensive line, every year we're going to send a couple guys out every year. And so he's just going to be part of the mold that, you know, happens, you know, to fit right into that's going to progress and get to the next level. So if he just continues to keep on going and going and going, he's going to be a part of those guys that we always talk about, you know, getting to the next level.
Right. And, you know, he's only a redshirt sophomore, or
Must be nice.
I don't even know that you call him a redshirt sophomore, because his freshman year was the COVID year. So that's 3 years.
I don't know how that goes. Do they, you know, so like you mentioned, you said COVID freshman, like, are they titling it that, you know?
No,
It's
that's
not a
just
red
my
shirt.
thing, but
You know, is it a repeat freshman? Like,
Yeah.
what do they title it?
3 years. So, you know, so I think officially he's a sophomore, even though this is his third year,
That's crazy. Yeah, that's crazy to think about.
and
Like,
still has a redshirt year technically, I believe.
yeah, it's like a
So-
freebie.
You know,
That's a beautiful thing.
So as young as he is academically,
Right.
eligibility wise, I should
Right.
say, you know, I think he's going to kind of be one of the leaders on the D line, because
Mhm.
everybody else has less experience than him on the D line.
Right.
You know, so you've got, we had a couple of young defensive tackles last year. And, you know, you had Junior Tafuna, who stepped up kind of, he got his shot to start about somewhere midway through into the season. Young guy, little underweight for the kind of defensive line, you know, defensive tackles we usually like to have. We usually like to have those space eaters, you know, the one that are
for sure.
the one that are space eaters, not to be confused with space heaters.
Right.
You need one. It's the summertime now, but in
Right.
the wintertime, you might need one. But Junior Tafuna, you know, was about 295, 6'3", I think, give or take. But he had like more explosion. Maybe part of that was because he wasn't so big.
Right.
But he had some explosion and some quickness that seemed to help him make some plays and beat some of those offensive linemen to the gap and whatnot. So, so if you want to talk about maybe him, and Aliki Vimahi was another one that started to get some more starts and some more playing time and whatnot. So
for sure. Like when it comes to like our D linemen, like those two that you mentioned, you know, I love, you know, what the value that they can provide. And it's all due to the coaches in the way I look at it, because the way they use their hands, especially when they're fighting on and off blockers, you know, attacking those gaps, knowing where to leverage. And a lot of our guys, I think this is like the recurring theme. They're not a me guy. They're not like, I have to get this tackle. I have to make every single tackle. They understand and they know, like, okay, this is my job to just take this guy away so that someone can fill this hole and make the tackle, right? And they're very smart when it comes to it. And so, you know, statistically, it may not look like, you know, they may have a great year, but they're doing their job and they're doing their role to where it's making the defense more effective and more efficient in that manner. And so you know, one thing I like about those guys is their usage of hands when they're at the point of attack. You know, they're low in their leverage and they're able to shoot out their hands and things of that nature. And so if they're continuing on that, like that foundation, you know, their natural skills that they, you know, possess, it's only going to, you know, increase it tenfold. That's why I get so excited about Fillinger, the one that we talked about, you know, his natural gifts that he has, plus added on with the coaching that we provide. It's only going to continuously grow, especially he has that cheating factor with the freaking COVID year, you know, giving him more experience and things of that nature. So he's going to be a freaking force to be reckoned with. And if he could, and if he wanted to, he could stay longer if he wanted to, which we could to teach the younger guys, you know, to show them the ropes until we can fill in a guy that can take over his position. So, you know, I'm excited about what those guys can do, because year in and year out, no matter if they're younger, older, it doesn't matter. You know, they continuously build on the foundation that's been set, and they continue to, you know, keep being prime. And so, I'm excited. That's one position I never hesitate about, when it comes to defense is that, well, mainly all the positions on our defense, but definitely our D linemen, especially the way they allow all of them to get their reps. Like we don't just have like 4 D linemen that play every rep. Like we have at least 8 guys that rotate and get experience, get settled in. Out of 75 plays in a game that an offense may have, our guys are getting maybe 30 snaps, 20 snaps. So it allows them to go ahead and play full out, full speed, go crazy with reckless abandon, and still get their playing time and still get their experience and others as well. So, and that's another thing I forgot to mention too. The coaches does a good job strategically of placing people in certain spots with other people so that they can get that experience. And it's just a beautiful thing. Like it's literally like they're playing chess out there. Like their defensive coaches filling them in. They'll probably have Fillinger in one row and then put it like a brand new guy that hasn't done any experience right next to him, and then put a veteran right in the middle. But as the season's growing, he's getting the experience, and then he'll plug in with someone else and then take Fillinger out, put somebody else. And it's just so cool to see. Like when I'll be watching, I'm like, golly, they're really rotating 7-8 guys. So over time, they're developing, they're getting better, they're getting that experience, and it just bodes well for our team.
So before I bring up the next player that I want to talk about, I want to, just kind of key off of that, what you talked about, how you said, they sometimes the defensive tackles may not be, or any position in some cases, but since we were talking about the D tackles, they may not get a lot of, tackles or sacks or whatever, but that's because their job on a given play might be to just take the offensive lineman out of the play so that the linebacker can step up and fill that gap, right, and get the tackle. Mm-hmm. And I think that the interesting part about that is that while that has been how it's been up at the U for probably years and years, we have a new coach up there now, a new D-line coach.
Yeah.
Who happened to be one of the best defensive linemen in the history of the University of Utah.
Right.
20th pick in the first round when he was drafted. He was there during a time when I was back in, getting my second degree. I was back for more, as it were.
Yeah.
And I loved watching that guy play because he was amazing. And it's Luther Ellis.
Great human being too.
Yeah, it seems like just a really solid guy. Again, he was a Ute. What do you expect? I mean, I think anybody who goes there and stays the full time and is committed and does things the way that, Witt or any of the other previous coaches, McBride, that's who he played for, they're the character guys. They're high character guys. And they want to give back to the program. They come back and they coach, at the program and add a lot that way, both on the field and off the field, in terms of player development and human development.
Yep.
And I think that from what I've been hearing is that Luther's style is more attacking. So I think what we might see is a little different, maybe results in terms of stats for some of these guys. And when you look at some of the quickness that some of these D linemen have, the tackles, like, Tafuna, who I think is very explosive, and gets the leverage that you were talking about. I think we might see some of them in the backfield making plays a little bit more, or even if not in the backfield, even just right at the line of scrimmage, making the plays. And secondarily, maybe the safeties or the linebackers are going to be up there just making sure, as a kind of an insurance policy.
Right. That's interesting that you say that, because, that could play a difference maker in all, right? In the way that the philosophy in which the coach teaches. So, that's going to be intriguing to see how it, winds up and unfolds based off of, his philosophy and based off of what the playing style of these players are too. Is he going to meet in the middle ground, or is he just going to go exactly what, he's trained to do, so it's going to be interesting to see how that all unfolds.
So we talked about Luther Ellis, and we talked about Van Fillinger, who's a defensive end. There's another Ellis that is playing for us right now, and it's Luther's son, Jonah. The first play I saw of Jonah was in and I'm sure he played a few plays before this, but in the Oregon game, not the Pac-12 championship,
Right,
just
right.
the regular season game,
First one.
I saw Anthony Brown, the Oregon quarterback, who
Uh-huh.
can run pretty
Yeah.
good. And he's
Yeah.
a pretty big guy for a quarterback
Right.
who is running.
Mm-hmm.
I'm watching this. He's running full speed across the field. He's going, running to his right.
Right, right.
And I think the pocket was collapsing a little bit. Jonah Ellis was on, Anthony Brown's left.
Uh-huh.
So he was on the right defensive end
Right.
side. And I'm watching this play, and I'm watching Jonah Ellis, a defensive end. Granted, he's a little small for a defensive end. He's like 6'2", 240, but he's still 6'2", 240, chasing down Anthony Brown. And he chased him down and sacked him before he could, one, either get out of bounds, or two, turn it upfield.
Right.
And as soon as I saw it, and then I find out, like his 40 time, like I guess they time him in spring ball or whatever.
Yep.
And he runs a 4.5 40.
Yeah, it's like I don't know if you guys remember Pita Tamapuanao. He went to Timview High School. He played defensive end with us. Probably not as tall as 6'2", but he was short in stature like that. We just used him sort of off the edge, using that speed.
Yeah, I remember him. He was like a freaking rocket coming off.
Yeah. He played years in the league, and so that's a beautiful thing to see. If especially if he's a guy like that, 6'2", 240, you better use that speed around the edge, like a Jacoby Hale did, for a little bit during his playing time here at Utah.
Yeah.
Using that speed around the edge.
Yeah, so I'm excited about that too. And then we've always got depth along the defensive line. We've got Mickey Segudu Raga, or however you say his last name.
It's tough.
And then we've got, several other defensive tackles, Devin Kafusi, who's a senior. We've got a couple of Putu Taus. Yep. I think we're always going to have at least one Putu Tau on the team,
It's one of something, like, for sure. It's crazy that when I went to fall camp with him, and I don't know the younger guys, but since I played with the older guys, it was easy for me to bridge the gap. And I'm like, man, that's crazy. I played with your older brother. And they're like, yeah, I remember you. I was, obviously I was young, but I remember you because you played with my brother. And I'm like, wow, this is crazy. Like, I'm part of the next evolution of the younger guys. I'm like, man, this is crazy. I feel so old because I'm watching the younger kids. Like, for instance, like, we're about to get into the linebackers. Yep. Like Landon Barton. Like, I was with that kid, coaching him at camps when he was like 9-10 years old. Like, and it's just, man, it just blows my mind, like, to see where he is now. It's like, wow. Like, I remember when he was barely in elementary and middle school. Like, it just blows my mind.
So that's a great segue. Ken, let's talk about linebackers, because we have to replace two starters.
Two phenomenal starters.
Yeah. One guy who was getting a lot of talk about maybe being the best linebacker in the draft.
Yeah.
Somebody who's going to come in and help his team, hopefully lift. I mean, I'm not a Jacksonville fan, but I'm a Devin Lloyd fan. I hope that Devin, goes in there and does well, and by virtue of him doing well, helping the team to do well. So I want him to have success.
For sure.
So replacing a guy like that is not easy. But then you also have to replace a second starter, and that's what we have is two linebackers. We rarely run three linebacker sets.
Right. And that's going to be a tough task, man. But, even though it's tough, we do have some phenomenal players. One that just came in, obviously, from Florida, and the one I mentioned, Barton, young guy, he's going to, obviously gonna have his bumps and bruises along the way, along his journey, but as he settles in, he's going to be good. And then you have Reed, right, and coming in. And so you got some choices, right, and some leeway to be able to at least have some type of production there. We may not be to the full capability of a Lloyd and a Nephi, but you're going to have some talent there to be able to fill the gap, I should say.
So let me just throw a few things out to you, and then I'd like to get your thoughts on this. So we also have the Calvert brothers,
Yep.
who were both 4 stars coming out of high school. They're both, very well built and supposedly very athletic and whatnot. We've got let's see. We had a kid last year who I think went on a mission. So he's out of the picture this year, but number 37, I can't remember his name, but then, you talked about Kareni Reed, the guy from Florida's Muhammad Diabate.
Yeah.
Smart kid. The kid was like, I say kid just because I'm old.
Right. Yeah. I'll be catching.
They're all kids to me.
Yeah. I'm not even that much older.
No,
I'm not that much older than them. I still find myself calling them kid.
Yep.
Well, I'm not gonna call him a kid. I'm only like 5-6 years older than these guys.
Right. They could literally be my kids. So
yeah, that's true. And yes, you're totally right.
So,
possibly not grandkids, because you say your daughter is about
I'm
20.
close. I mean, I would have had to have started way earlier in order.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
let's not rush me into things, okay?
Yeah, because how old is your oldest? About 25, 26?
Yeah, she'll be 26 in December. So
it can't be.
Yeah.
They can't be grandkids.
So, thank you. So I can't remember, but if he was like a Rhodes Scholar or something like that, Diabate, and I think he speaks a couple different languages.
Wow.
So when I hear things like that, my mind goes to, well, he's probably pretty smart on the field as well. He probably, takes to coaching well. He probably does a lot of film study and that kind of thing. And we know he's a great athlete. I've watched some highlights of him. He's got kind of the size of Devin Lloyd, about 6'3" and roughly 230-ish, give or take. And so, obviously Devin knew the system because he'd been in it for a long time.
For sure.
So it'll, as smart as Muhammad might be, it'll probably take him a few games to just really start to get comfortable with the system.
Right. For sure.
I feel like he'll be a big contributor this year.
I hope so. Because we need it. We're definitely going to need it because, behind him, we're going to have to figure out how we can fill some stuff too, through injuries and things of that nature. So, we really do need it just in case things may get to that third level. But yeah, I think, he should be good to go. He has experience, especially playing in Florida.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I think he should be fine.
Because he was a starter at Florida and had
so
89 tackles last year. And so I feel like he's kind of plug and play.
Right.
A little bit.
He should be good.
And Kareni Reed played a lot of snaps last year. And while he's a little undersized at 6 feet and 220 or 225, I feel like he also seems to be, just have that nose for the ball.
For sure.
And is going to make plays. But then there's 2 freshmen that I think really impressed in spring ball. You mentioned one of them, Lander Barton.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and he's got the size already. I think he's like 6'4" and about 230-ish, give or take, and can run. They say his sideline to sideline speed is right up there with about anybody.
So excited for that kid.
And probably because of all the coaching that you gave him, like in some camps and stuff.
When he was 8 years old, man, it's crazy, man. I just can't wait to watch him, man. Honestly.
But there's another freshman that came in and supposedly impressed, and his name's Justin Medlock, and I think he's out of Texas or somewhere down south, and he's like 6 feet 217. But there's another team that had a linebacker about that size who was dominant. And that team won the national championship last year
with
Georgia.
Yeah.
Georgia had, and that kid went, I think, in the third round. I don't know why he dropped.
Yeah.
He was also smart. He was an engineering major and had like a 4.0. I'd have taken that first in the draft.
I was like, dang, how do you do that playing football and that's
right. So Justin kind of reminds me of him size wise and in the way they move, because they were both extremely athletic.
Mm,
And from what I've heard, Justin is, he was here for spring ball, had a good spring ball, and was quick to learn the defense and knew where he needed to be on
right.
getting plays and that type of thing. So do you think it's, how feasible do you think it is that we maybe 2 of our 4 main linebackers might be freshmen?
I just, the way I look at it, it's kudos for, for our younger guys. That just means that they're wherever high school they came from, developed them more, develop them more at a faster pace than any others, right? And so it's just more kudos to them coming in, get it in, and it doesn't scare me at all. It just shows me that, man, their potential is going to be that much greater. Getting it in early. I look at a guy like Marcus Williams, who played for us as starting as a freshman. Well, I don't know if he started as a freshman, but he played for us when he was a freshman.
Mhm.
And then look what he blossomed to, and I think of all the other guys that played early and then blossomed up,
Right.
And so, getting in, getting that experience, getting your feet well, trying to get acclimated to the game, it's only going to get you that much further, in your career. And so it doesn't faze me a bit. I look at a guy like, who we're going to talk about, Cole Bishop. I can see that is going to be remarkable.
You keep stealing my thunder, man.
I'm excited, man. And so when I see the younger guys stepping in, even though if they plan over an older guy, it just makes me that more excited for the future, because I know that person's going to stay there for we have that person at least there for a couple more years.
Right. Which is, to be honest with you, that's kind of why I was excited that Cole started last year. Cause I'm like, when we signed him, he was another one of those guys that I'm like, I like this sign. Cause he was committed to Duke.
Yeah.
He's a smart guy. I love having smart guys on our team, because I feel like, if you're one really athletic to begin with,
right,
and you're not athletically disadvantaged so that you have to make up with it with your smartness, but you're equal to the task that you have to do taking on whatever team we're playing, and you're that smart so that you can then take that athleticism and use it in a more efficient way.
Right.
I feel like, that's kind of what helps push us up, to the next level. And I think Cole Bishop, we had a guy, I can't remember his name. He was free safety the year before he went on a mission. He's on a mission right now. And I think when that kid gets back, it'll be Cole and him playing, because he started day 1 too. And I just like those guys were amazing. Cole's a hard hitter.
Yeah.
He's in the right place at the right time. He was just a freshman last year.
What's crazy? Cole Bishop reminds me of the lineage of a Brian Blecken. Blecken, he was a quarterback at first, very smart. He went to Moore Park High School out of California, came in, switched position to safety. He basically translated all his quarterback skills as far as how he reads defenses, understanding the offense to defense. Dude came in as a freshman, started, then he transitioned to linebacker later on in his career. Then another guy he reminds me of is Chase Hansen. He started off
exactly. That's what I was thinking too.
Yeah, he started off as a safety, transitioned to linebacker, and it's going to be interesting to see.
But he was a high school quarterback.
Yes,
defenses as a quarterback.
Yes, and so the point I'm kind of getting to is it's going to be interesting.
There's another one. There's a third one you're missing.
Let's see. Oh man, who is it?
Weddle.
Oh yeah, there we go. I'm tripping. See, that was before that's another generation before me.
Yeah, he is old.
but my point was saying was like, it's going to be interesting when you see Cole Bishop, because I've been seeing it. The guys like him, they will start off as a safety, and then over time they're like, hey, let's move them down to a linebacker position. And then they blossom at that position. And it's going to be interesting to see, because you mentioned, the linebacker spot being young and stuff like that. It's going to be crazy to see his development over the years and see if they do that same thing as they did Brian Blake and Chase Hansen moved him from safety to linebacker, and he's just going to be a freaking phenomenal linebacker, go to the NFL, all that, So, thinking of that is kind of makes it intriguing a little bit too.
Right. So Nate, first of all, a little side note, Nate Ritchie was the kid that's on a mission now, who was
Gotcha.
Started at safety the year before Cole Bishop got here. And I've heard the possibility of switching Cole to linebacker. That would, of course, mean that he'd need to probably put on 15, 20 pounds, give or take.
Right.
I think he's about 208.
Right.
Now.
If he can get 220, 225, I can see it. And that will be very to have him at linebacker, and just think of it, Barton next year or whoever, like the guy from Florida, whoever steps in, you got two solid linebackers, boom. And then we just have to figure out on the back end, obviously this is Clark Phillips last year. Let's just put it out there, right? We got to figure out. We just got to figure out.
I don't even want to think about that, because I love Clark Phillips so much.
This is last year. The guy's phenomenal.
You're making me sad telling me that it's his last year.
He probably not gonna say it, but this is his last year, without a doubt.
I agree. He's good. And he proved it with several great plays in the Rose Bowl that he made.
Oh yeah. So tremendous.
His coverage in the Rose Bowl was fantastic.
Dude, his technique is amazing.
Strong as heck. He's fast.
Yes.
And so you in the offensive video, you even mentioned him as a possible returner, and I can absolutely see that, because he's got the speed and he's got the athleticism and the smarts. He can make the moves. He had a great, roughly 60 or so yard interception return last year, where he made a couple of good moves to get into the end zone.
Yeah. And so with him, it's going to be interesting to see with him. I wish, in a way, this is going to sound crazy. So when it was my senior year, we had a cornerback by the name of Justin Thomas. Phenomenal corner, in my opinion. I think he was probably one of the better cornerbacks that we had. And we moved him into the slot, as a nickel, because that's the defense you reran. Because you mentioned we hardly ever do three linebackers. We do mainly two, and they have a nickel. And so it'll be interesting to see if, man, what if we put Clark Phillips in the nickel position and we develop the outside guys, more? How much more effective will it be, in terms of that? Because if I'm thinking about it in Clark Phillips' point of view, at the next level, because of his size and his stature, he may fit into that, because he's about 5'8", 5'9", but he's a little stout. And so he may have
5'10", but I think he's more like 5'8".
Exactly. And so it's going to be interesting. They could play around with it a little bit, but my question marks on the defense only is how is JT going to be coming from injury, and how is RJ going to be being on the opposite end of the Cole Bishop at the safety. So those are my two question marks, and I believe if we answer those, I think we should be pretty cool on defense. We should be okay. But the offense is going to have to carry us probably for the first couple games until we get settled in on defense.
Right. What do you think? It's funny that you say that. I'm just assuming that JaTravis is back.
Hopefully.
Yeah. 100%. Hopefully.
Yeah.
If he is, I've got full confidence in him, because we've seen what he could do when he's healthy.
Yep, for sure.
So I love the bookend thing of JaTravis on one side and Clark on the other side.
Yep.
And I love Clark.
Yes.
There's another person, just like I've said, Clark's very smart.
Yep.
Very intelligent. And when you have that kind of athletic ability and the intelligence to go with it, it's I almost feel like you're unstoppable.
You know what? A corner that intrigues me a little bit, because his length is he has a brother that plays receiver. I forgot his name.
Zamiah Vaughn.
Boom. There we go. He's
actually he's listed as a safety.
I
think they moved him to cornerback last year because we had all the injuries at cornerback. He's on the current roster. He's listed as a safety, but I'm thinking along your lines. I think he played quite well. So I'm going to throw out a couple of names for you. Fabian Marks.
Oh yeah.
Of course, Malone Mataele.
15
is the current slot, you know,
Okay. Makes sense.
you know, current nickelback.
Yeah. Yep.
Guards the slot receiver. And so we, you know, Fabian Marks was one that came in to replace Travis when he got injured, and then he got injured.
Yes, that's
and then
so we should be good.
And then Zamiah Vaughn came in to replace, you know, Fabian.
Oh,
and so, but you know, I'm kind of a Kane Savage fan. I think Kane is built for the. I think Kane is built for the position.
Yes.
You know, he's still young. I think last year he was a redshirt freshman.
Yeah.
I feel like, you know, hopefully, if the light hasn't gone on for him yet for our defense, hopefully it does, because I feel like he's got, you know, all the requisite physical tools.
Right.
To be very good at that position. So I'm wondering, I agree with you completely when you talk about in the NFL, Clark's position is probably going to be nickelback.
Mm-hmm.
Not to be confused with the band Nickelback, but
right. Yeah.
But so I feel like, you know, it would probably bode well for him to play some Nickelback this year to kind of prepare him for that. So he has some game film for coaches to see, hey, this is how here's my film at, you know, at corner, and here's my film at, you know, because when he played, as good as he is, when he played against USC and was guarding, what's their 6'5" receiver?
London. He did when he played well.
But he did play very well, especially with that height difference.
Yes.
I mean, you could see London had 8-9 inches on him.
Yeah, a whole foot.
Virtually.
Yeah.
Yes. And so I like your idea that maybe he gets shifted over to nickel, but then we need to make sure that we've got the confidence in who's ever going to be full-time at that other cornerback. And so of those names that I talked about, you know, what are your thoughts on them?
Man, I totally forgot about those guys, honestly, because, you know, all those injuries, you know, because they weren't there.
Right.
I mean, so JT, obviously a good corner. Kane Savage, obviously good. Fabian Marks, obviously good. You got Moses as the nickel, you know, because I've seen these guys, and I know what type of athletes they are and the competitor they are when they're facing against each other. And Vaughn, you know, I'm like, man, those are some guys. And so now I'm thinking, I'm kind of refiguring everything. It's like, okay, well, maybe Vaughn can slide to, you know, that would be crazy. What if Vaughn end up sliding to the safety, developing that, be the post safety, right? And then you have, you know, somebody else coming down, whether that be Cole, being a more strong safety instead of the free. That can leave Fabian Marks or Kane or JT on the outside. However man,
Cole,
now that you said it like that,
third linebacker,
as
strong safety, Cole ends up being like that third linebacker in a lot of those plays.
And so, man, like the potential's there now. Now that you mentioned all those other names, and because I wasn't aware of them because they were injured last year, now that you brought them up and they're going to be healthy. Oh man, the potential's there. We just got to make sure they get back up to speed and gain speed. But I think we're going to do a great job. Coach Scalley's a freaking genius. Coach Shaw is a technician. So those guys are going to be ready. I can put everything on it that those guys are going to be ready because of the coaches, and I know what they bring to the table.
Yeah, you know, and I appreciate that you brought them up, because, you know, I couldn't agree more. I think those two guys, you know, we talked a little bit about, you know, like Ellis Luther, you know, the new coach, and kind of how he's changing things up a little bit on the D tackles. But, you know, I think that I have the utmost confidence in Scalley and Shaw. I think, man, they're both super smart guys, and they've shown the ability to make adjustments, good adjustments, in game and throughout the season. You know, imagine, you know, you're on with Shaw, he's on his like fourth cornerback by the end of the season, you know, replacing JT.
Yeah, he really is. And dang, he really is. JT, Fabian, like, Did Kane get
He
injured
played
too?
a
Or?
little bit, but Kane was healthy at the end of the season, but wasn't
Got you.
playing a lot. He played a couple of plays, but
Yeah.
Zamaya, came over from safety
Yeah.
and played.
Wow.
Right now he's probably built more for a corner because he's like weighs about 175.
Right.
But man, if he could bulk up, if he could bulk up to 195, 200 and be
Yeah.
2, he'd be a great free safety. Because I think he's got the range to do it. It's just, does he have that size he needs to take on some bigger receivers?
Yeah.
As a safety, or some tight ends, that are getting a little bit, beyond the second level.
Funny story is when I was in high school, I played two ways. I played receiver, and I also played safety. And I had scholarships for the safety position just as well as I had at the receiver position. And as I was getting recruited and went on to go to Utah, Coach Scally, he always wanted me to play safety because he seen my film at safety. And Coach Sataki, he did too. And I remember it was my redshirt freshman year. I barely was getting the ball, and it was at one point they were like, hey, can we, since y'all not throwing him the ball and barely using him like as he should be used, can we bring him to safety? And this was my redshirt freshman year. And I guess they discussed it and they didn't end up doing it. And then it's funny because right after that, that's when I started literally the next week, got my first catches and all that. I'm like, wow, that's crazy how that happened. But, I was reading a letter.
And you knew they were talking about trying to get you over to the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, they were trying to get me to play safety because at that time it was at that moment or during that duration of the season, it was unsure. They had injuries, and they were like, "Shoot, this guy played safety, highly talented at safety, is coming from high school." And this morning, I went to my grandma's house and I was looking at my box full of letters, and I went to go read, all the handwritten letters. And Coach Scally, you say like, man, you're a heck of a two-way ball player, and he was just talking about like him wanting me to play defense. Like, and it's just crazy because like I be thinking about it often, like, man, because Coach Shaw even mentioned it too. He said, man, if your big butt was back there at safety, man, you probably still be playing, because they translated it as, I don't know if you remember back in the USC days, there was a safety named Taylor Mays, and he was the post player. He was a big safety.
He was big. He was like linebacker size.
Yeah.
He was like 230 or something.
Yeah, he was big. And so, that's the type of safety I was, and they love that. And so I always think about it back in my head, like, dang, I wonder what would have happened if I would have played safety, understanding our defense and knowing how literally in those spots, everybody goes off to the end. Everybody, like, it doesn't matter who gets. Every year it happens like that. And so I always wondered that in the back of my mind, like, man, if I would have listened to him and played safety, not that I'm not, fortunate enough and grateful enough for like the role I did play on the offensive side, but I feel like longevity wise, like if, could I have been, steady playing, based off of that. So that always, comes up, in conversations whenever I go up there with Coach Scally or Coach Shaw and things of that nature, and Sataki too.
Right. Huh. That's interesting. I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
That little tidbit of Ken Scott and Utah history.
Yeah, man. It's crazy, man. But it's, it's just more like kudos to those guys because they know talent when they see talent, and they know how to plug them in and coach them the right way and develop them the right way in order to get the most out of them. And so whether, we were talking about Vaughn, I believe that, if he does take the approach and get his, weight up, and things of that nature, and is able to fit in that mode, he can be a phenomenal post player, and I think of a guy like Keith McGill, he played safety and they figured out best for his future. Let's slide him the corner. Brian Allen, he was a receiver. Let's switch him over to defense, play him at corner.
Right.
Tyrone, and so, those guys know what they're doing. They know the talent. They know how to develop. And so whoever they put out on the field, I 100% trust because they have an eye for it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure other schools do that too, but I feel like we are really good at it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure.
It's like, I know you played quarterback your whole high school career, but you're going to play safety with us.
Yeah, like Cubby.
You're going to end up at linebacker. Safety's just a stepping stone for
Oh man, for real though. It's crazy. It is crazy, man. Like who'd have thought like Nate Faco for a wide receiver basically his
right.
whole career. Let's put him on defensive end. Let's see how he goes. And boom.
Right.
It's like, dang.
How many sacks did he have?
Yeah, it's just crazy, man. They just understand and know how to place talent and where to put it and develop it.
Yeah, no doubt. I love it. And I think that's what's really fun. And we've seen it enough, like I think when they kind of in the beginning, when Witt first started, was first at the head coaching position, like in 2005, 2006, 2007, and he was doing that. People were like, that's not his position. It's his position, But now, over the last several years, it's been like he's done that so many times. You see a guy commit or sign, and you go, wonder what position he's going to end up at.
Right.
Because we're too loaded at this position that is his position, so he's probably not going to play there. Where's he going to play? And it's like but you trust the coaches because they've done it so many times. And I think a lot of players even come in, probably having a little bit of familiarity with that part of the system.
Yep.
And they say, because the coaches, I'm sure they're having that conversation with them when they're recruiting them. They're saying, hey, look, we love your talent. We love your ability, all this kind of thing. And we see you as this kind of guy.
Right.
Playing in the NFL who came in as a you.
Yeah.
As whatever position you are, a quarterback, a wide receiver, or whatever. And now he's just signed a $40 million contract as a safety.
Yep.
Whatever Marcus Williams is, 70 million, I think. Marcus.
Yeah,
Williams.
It's crazy. And I've been knowing Marcus since he was like a young pup, because I went to high school with his older brothers. And so I've been knowing Marcus since he was young. And another person, I'm thinking about just on the offensive side of the ball and our offensive structure now, who would have been prime, in my opinion. And if he would have had this offense back then when we were playing, is a receiver. His name was Anthony Benham. He played receiver for us. He didn't get much playing time, but his size and his athleticness, if he was able to be a part of this offense, to be a tight end.
Right. Yeah, he had tight end size. He was like 6'4", 230.
Oh my God, because that's what he ended up playing when he got an opportunity in the NFL and was there for many years.
Right.
And so I'm like, man, just to think of like, it's just, just different puzzle pieces. Like, man, what if this? What if that? It's crazy.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. So just to kind of wrap this up, I asked you that question.
Yeah.
And just to remind everybody, the question was, is this the best chance a Utah team has had since the CFP has been around, the college football playoffs, to actually be one of the 4 teams in the college football playoffs this year?
I would say, honestly, I believe so. Because we are right where we were last year, but better. And 5 of our top receiver targets are coming back from next year. Our old lineman, we're missing a couple pieces, but I'm sure they'll get it together. But the main piece is that quarterback position. And we have him for another year. If he stays healthy, sky's the limit for us. If not neglecting anything from Barnes or Jackson or anything, but I believe if he stays healthy, continues on with the momentum that he had last year, we'll not only get to where we were at minimum, whether it's Rose Bowl, but we'll be able to get to the college football playoff and compete against I'm assuming Alabama or somebody of that stature. And I think we'll be good to go. I think we do have what it takes.
I've heard from a lot of Ohio State fans. I did a video that got somewhere over 12,000 views now after our loss in the Rose Bowl. And a lot of Ohio State fans responded and, said, how much respect they have for Utah and the program. And they're all hoping that it's a rematch because they love the game so much. They're all hoping it's a rematch of the 2 of us in the college football playoffs.
I hope, man. I hope, because I really feel like we should have won that game. I don't understand. I was talking so much trash to everybody, texting everybody, literally everybody. and it just backfired on me, man. But I'm so proud of those guys. They fought their tails off to the very end, and that's all I want from those guys, man. To carry that Utah name with pride and passion and energy. So, because like I'm living my moments through them now. Like no longer am I able to be on that field anymore. So the only time I can envision myself on the field is watching them. And when they carry that name and carry that the jersey the way they do on that field and just leaving it in such a way that nationwide they speak of us in such a prominent name, man, it does nothing but give me smiles every day from knowing that. And so I love every bit of it watching them.
I couldn't agree more. And I think we represented ourselves in the conference well. Nothing to shake your head about, or hang your head about, right. In that game. And I feel like, I think the number was 67. There was 67 of our 85 scholarship players were underclassmen last year.
Wow.
And look what we did, especially with the start we had because of the other quarterback whose name cannot be mentioned.
Right.
So I feel like, with the players that we have back, some very key players, and some good influx of some talent at some key positions, and some more depth that we've developed and whatnot. I feel like, yes, I think this is, we were all hyped up a couple of years ago, when we had a great team that, Tyler Huntley was a quarterback and we had Zach Moss at running back and we had a lot of talent. And then Oregon handed us, on a platter, in that conference championship game. Yeah. And then we laid an egg playing Texas in the bowl game. Probably we were like, still hanging our heads and woe is me and everything. But I feel like, with what we did last year, we had an explosive offense.
Right.
And I think it's going to be probably even a little more explosive this year.
Yep. I hope so.
And I think our defense is going to be better this year because the linebackers are a question, but I feel confident that I think they'll do enough in the early part of the season, that it's not going to hurt us. By mid to latter part of the season, we'll forget that some of these kids playing are, freshmen.
Right. I think they'll be good.
And I think that our defense, our defensive line, it'd be interesting to see how Luther Ellis, his coaching style, how that impacts the game.
Right.
And that youth will just be a little bit bigger, stronger, and faster.
Sure.
And I feel like I agree with you 100% that this is our best chance. Now, do we do it?
Yep, for sure.
We've got 13 games, including the Pac-12 championship, to decide where we go.
Yep, exactly. We're going to get it done.
I hope so. Hey, Ken, I can't tell you how much I appreciate your time and your knowledge and your enthusiasm. It's all fantastic. It's all infectious. I hope everybody watching, is reminded of the great plays and the great player that you were, and that they're as excited now about this upcoming season as we are after hearing, all the great stuff that you have to say about it. And we're going to do this again.